there's something called concept creep. Okay, so that's when there's a sort of a term that we use to define something, but then the content of what that term defines changes over time, right? And this is super important for when we're translating between languages, right? And it's super important when we're translating between time periods, right? Because we have concepts in Islam that are so indigenous and important and central to Islam, but then when they're rendered into English and we think about them with a modern lens, they kind of shift and they kind of take on different content. And sometimes it produces sort of unnecessary misunderstandings or drama. Like compassion is one of those things, right? Compassion, however we want to translate it, there's multiple Arabic terms that get at it, is something that is obviously from the deen of Islam. It's from Allah's deen. It was the way of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? You had the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha where she says that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam never hit anything with his hand, not a woman, not a child, not an animal, except when he was on the battlefield fighting the enemy, right? And so that compassion, and we have so many hadith about the compassion and the mercy, Allah Azza wa Jal called him mercy for all the creation. So, we can't shake this idea that compassion is so central to our faith and what it means to be a Muslim. However, we have to be aware of the content of that compassion, the definition of what compassion looks like, because people can get it twisted and people can, in the modern era or in a different language, have a different understanding as to what the content of compassion is. So some people, for example, imagine that being compassionate is just always being like a yes man or always being meek and weak and stuff like this, or not standing up for the truth, right? And that's not our compassion, right? That's not the compassion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's not the compassion of Islam. And so that sort of misunderstanding kind of it results in a very unfortunate situation where people will react to that shift or that the shift or the change in that concept across languages, across times, and then they end up sort of mocking it or, saying that this is bad, this is not how we should be. But we can't necessarily mock compassion in and of itself. We just have to re-mean it, right? We have to re-signify it. We have to take it back, right? We can't leave compassion for people who, if we submit to the argument, there's some people out there who are misrepresenting what compassion looks like. And in reality, it's weakness, or in reality, it's meekness, or it's something that's not our compassion. We can't leave the term compassion to them. We have to take it back. And we have to find what is the true balance. And the true balance is always in the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you ever want to know how do I balance between being too harsh and too soft, or how do I balance between being too this or too that, the answer is always in the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why Allah Azza wa Jal gave us the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and didn't just send us a Quran as a book, right? He gave it through the messenger so that we would see the example of the messenger alayhi salatu wasalam and then follow it. So we can't leave those things go. Compassion is Islam, and Islam is compassion. But what type of compassion? What's the content of that compassion? You can find it in the Sunnah.